What if Sarada's other eye isn't another fancy sparkler, but instead a revelation so divine that it rewrites the rule book on Sharingan powers? You thought that Ohirume was overpowered and had all the stuck in Shippuden scalers completely melting down? That was just a warm-up. Today we're going to dive into what Sarada's second Mangekyo Sharingan power could be, one rooted in Shinto myth, chakra logic, and narrative symmetry. Buckle up, boys and girls, because this one's going to get cosmic. So, gravity exploding spears. Absorption. Ohirume already makes her a walking apocalypse. What could her second eye add that makes it feel like a natural next step, yet also remain surprising? Well, your OBC, your original Boruto chief, has a few ideas here for the second Mangekyo Sharingan power, how it could be directly looking at Shinto gods and goddesses, since every Mangekyo Sharingan power in the series that you've seen is linked in one form or another to a Shinto god. And in the case of Sarada, her Ohirume power is literally just another name for Amaterasu. Real quick, if you haven't already, make sure to check out my other two anime channels where I discuss other series besides Naruto, like the Everything One Piece Explained channel, where I have a new video on Ace, and I also blind react to One Piece chapters, chapter by chapter, from chapter 1 to the most recent chapter as a new reader, unspoiled. And check out my Anime Explained channel, where if it's an anime besides Naruto and One Piece or a manga, I'm very likely to have talked about it or talk about it in the future. So let's first look at Ohirume. Before we get into any speculations, we have to ground ourselves in what we know for certain, how Mangekyo Sharingan powers for Sarada works. So Sarada's first Mangekyo Sharingan power is Ohirume. It grants her combat flight at Ōtsutsuki levels of speed, gravity control over a target that she fixates on, creation of 4 black spears up to 8 feet in size that she can resize. She can detonate to annihilate a target. She has gravitational locking, which is a fancy way of saying that it's immobilization. She can absorb the chakra-based attacks with those gravitational pull via the spears. The thematic link is that also, again, Ohirume is another name / alias for the Sun Goddess Amaterasu. So if you said in the past that Sarada is going to get Amaterasu, that's basically Amaterasu. It's another name for Amaterasu. We're guaranteed that her third Mangekyo Sharingan power will be Susanoo, because every Mangekyo Sharingan user who unlocks Mangekyo Sharingan in both eyes gets a Susanoo. Historically, each Mangekyo power that we've had in the series is tied to a divine inspiration. Itachi and Sasuke both had Amaterasu. Itachi had Tsukiyomi. Obito had Kamui. Kamui is both a name for Shinto gods, but it is also a shorthand name of one of the gods that helped create entire universe in Shinto, so heaven and hell. Also, you have Shisui, who has Kotomatsukami, which is a collection of the 5 beings who created heaven and hell. Then you have Sasuke, who wields Kagusuchi, the fire deity, which is also the god for blacksmiths. That's why Sasuke molds Amaterasu, because Amaterasu's fire. He molds it into weapons the same way that blacksmiths take fire and heat to make weapons. So her second power, it would feel very coherent when it comes to Ohirume. Sun, gravity, destruction, but also bring in either a complementary or a contrasting domain. Something that she can't already do, yet also something that potentially thematically resonates. Also, as we go through this, we have to keep something in mind. The power itself can't break core chakra logic, so no literal time travel. That only exists in Boruto's anime with that god-awful time travel turtle that Kishimoto came up with the idea for. No outright invulnerability. Even Kamui had limits. Even Izanagi had limits. No plot breaking abilities either. It should have costs, it should have limits, it should have trade-offs. With that in mind, I have a few speculative candidates that we can look at. So the mythic candidates that we have and their thematic tie-ins, the natural starting points, in my opinion, are Ame-no-Uzume and Kushina Hime. And I'm basing this the same way that I did when I said, hey, don't be shocked if Sarada gets a version of Amaterasu 2 years ago. Again, Ohirume is another name for Amaterasu. So longtime viewers of the channel, you know that I've mentioned Ame-no-Uzume and Kushina Hime for a while. Ame-no-Uzume, the key domain and attribute is dawn, dance, intelligence, and coaxing light. It contrasts with Ohirume slash Amaterasu because she lured Amaterasu from the cave with the dance and the performance, and she had a mirror with jewels that pulled Amaterasu out, appealed to Amaterasu's vanity because she was bedazzled by the jewels and she looked in the mirror at herself. You also have Kushina Hime, who her key domain is rice, fertility, earthy abundance, and she's also the wife of Susanoo. This is a more grounded nature opposed to a solar might. So you have the sun in Amaterasu slash Ohirume, and now you have the ground, the earth, so something associated with that. Then you have Wakairume, which is the goddess of the rising sun. She is the sister slash daughter of Amaterasu. That's also a counterpart to the high sun. The high sun goddess is Amaterasu. Then you have ISSHIKI Kori Dome no Mikoto, which is the kami of mirrors, the mirror of creation. She's the one that forged the Yada mirror that lured Amaterasu out of the cave that was used by Ame-no-Uzume. Itachi, as you know, did have the Yada mirror. So maybe something that operates similar to the Yada mirror. It is a spiritual weapon. There are also other various sun and star deities that you could look at, like Amatsu Mikaboshi or Amatsu Hikone. Their domain, again, is stars, celestial bodies, cosmic opposition. This could allow for a cosmic contrast. Sun versus void, stars versus light. So something to do with darkness or something to do with stars themselves. That kind of fits into Boruto having the whole celestial vibes. With Ame-no-Uzume, you could have a dawn reverie. So because Sarada has already been tied to Ame-no-Uzume in some of her characteristics that she has, which I've done a video explaining that before, that is a potential candidate. Uzume is a goddess whose ecstatic dance and laughter and her intelligence to come up with the idea to coax Amaterasu out of hiding in the cave, that could lend itself to a revelation type power. While Ohirume is solar devastation, this could be a revealing light, coaxing hidden truths, or a soft illumination. This would complement Ohirume's destructive glare by offering revelation, manipulation of perception. That could be something that counters something like omnipotence. Not directly counters it, but you get the idea of where I'm going with that. It's also a sister slash ally of light. She doesn't have to compete with brute force with these powers. This would be more so a support type of a power. This would also, if you take the inverse of it, which Mangekyo Sharingan powers, when they borrow from Shinto, there have been times where they take the inverse. This would allow for potentially latent chakra to be suppressed or masked by it, because of some of the stories that deal with Ame-no-Uzume. If you take the inverse to it, that would be something that directly fits into it. There's also the potential of, because of the mirrors, if you take the flipping around, being able to convert chakra or sunlight residual glow into chakra burst or beams. But then again, Ohirume already has a chakra burst to that extent. So we might be able to kind of scratch that one off because Ohirume already kind of does that. There could potentially be something to do with genjutsu if you still stick with Ohirume, because there could potentially be something that deals with genjutsu, just given the fact that Ame-no-Uzume is a goddess that is associated with performance. Performance is another way of, again, tying into genjutsu because you're projecting illusions. So you could have something that's genjutsu based, and given that Ame-no-Uzume does have something to do with mirrors, the idea of mirroring an attack is already something that the Sharingan can do in terms of the eye insight being able to allow to copy. So potentially something to do with reflection, just like a mirror reflects light and a mirror reflects images and etc. Damon has that reflection ability, but it should be worth noting, Damon's ability does have a ninjutsu equivalent. That is something that all shinjutsu have. There is a ninjutsu version of them. There's also the potential to subtly pull chakra from surrounding opponents. Again, it would basically be a play on Ame-no-Uzume luring out Amaterasu from the cave. You would be luring the chakra out of the target by sucking it out of the target. The other one that you have sticking with the mirror component, is Ishikori Dome. That's the kami of mirrors directly. Again, she made the Yada mirror that pulled Amaterasu out the cave. Basically, this would be something that still sticks with reflection and operates in a similar way that Itachi's Yada mirror did. Itachi's Yada mirror, whatever chakra nature attack you use, that Yada mirror just changes the property of itself. So if you use Earth release, that Yada mirror would be made up out of lightning release. If you use fire release, it is now made up out of water. It directly cancels out. This could be a good way to counter. Ohirume is a brilliant offensive attack. This could be a defensive attack. This would allow for her to serve in a very strong support role if this could be applied to other people. Again, Damon's ability does have a ninjutsu counterpart just because of how shinjutsu works. Either one of these works, but I do really feel like because of some of the connections that Sarada's character does have with Ame-no-Uzume, that chakra lore and resonance has to be something that, in my opinion, should be considered and should be that power. Obviously, we have no way of knowing as of this recording what her second power is, but it does feel like something that would counterbalance. Ohirume is super overpowered. Ame-no-Uzume was able to lure Amaterasu / Ohirume out of the cave. If Sarada is able to lure the chakra out of a target because she has some type of absorption ability, that could be something that works, especially if you're able to redistribute that chakra. Either that or something that is genjutsu related. Those feel like the strongest candidates in my opinion. Something that either reflects, something that plays up the performance aspect, basically a genjutsu, because that's all what genjutsu is. It's a nod to performance because you're making illusions that don't exist. The illusions are basically a performance or something to do with that chakra absorption or something to do with that mirroring. I feel like those are the most logical just based off of how Ohirume works, but I do want to know what you guys think is the most likely power that Sarada has. Throw out your ideas down in the comment section. Obviously, if you say something and there might be a Shinto connection to it, I'll definitely point that out in the comment section. In the meantime, click here to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, or click here to check out videos from my other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.